if you are here and live with me, hi. Thanks for joining. I've got something to talk about today that I want to be careful about the way that I say it because there is a lot of like language out there around work around your life. Don't have your work determine your life, blah blah blah. And that sounds really good. And I think once people get into it, they often get into a place very quickly where they feel like they're in a job again. And I think that's what we want to talk about today is how do we not let um, our new service-based businesses start to determine what our life is. And so this gets a little bit nuanced and it's a little bit about the way that we think about things. So when you first get started, uh, we tend to think, oh, somebody's watching us or somebody's going to tell us when we can work. And we've been conditioned, for however long we've been in the work world. We've been conditioned that we have to work a certain number of hours and that people are going to be like checking in on us. And it just doesn't happen. So the first thing we have to do is just like understand that we have agency. We are in control of what our lives look like and what our work looks like. And so we get to make decisions. So the very first thing that we have to do is know that we get to decide and we are the designers of our personal and our work lives. And as we get more confident being business owners and having more experience as entrepreneurs, you start to realize how you can make decisions that matter to you and have boundaries and enforce them so that your life starts to become more of what you want it to be and less of what we think it should be. So if you're waiting for someone to tell you what the perfect configuration is, you have to stop waiting because we have to make conscious decisions in how we structure our lives and how we structure our businesses. I used to be, I think the last time I had a job was 2003. It was a long time ago. So I've had a lot of years to kind of get past this, but I would say it took me a really long time after I went out on my own, years after I went out on my own, to realize that I could let my work life look how I wanted it to look. And that all the people who were out there that I was doing work for, all they cared about was that I showed up and did what I told them I would do. And then they didn't think about me at all, right? So that's a really like liberating place to be. But I put all this pressure on myself and I was just convinced that somebody was going to get really upset if I wasn't available to them when they wanted me to be available to them. And it took a long time to get into that sort of headspace where I realized that if you set expectations from the beginning, no one's going to question you, right? Nobody's going to say, well, I want you to be doing things in a certain way. And if they are, you can say, I don't want to work with you, right? So there's lots of pressures that kind of force us into trying to, work in the way that other people want us to work, whether it's family pressures or work pressures, or if we're like getting really burnt out or what have you. But for a lot of people, that like kind of hustle culture is not what they want, right? They want something more spacious, yet they feel the pressure of everybody making demands of them. And the turning point is when you realize that there are really eloquent ways to determine what your work life looks like. And you setting those expectations right from the beginning is the key to getting what you want. So some of the myths that I think people are faced with is that you need tons of time available all the time to start, and you don't. Like, this is about being just really nice and structured with your time, and sit down and create a work schedule for yourself. Say, this is what I ideally want my work to look like. And it's not bad, it's not selfish, it's not anything if you say, actually, I want my Mondays and my Fridays to be free of meetings. Then you're just not available for meetings on Mondays and Fridays. Nobody is going to challenge you on that and say, no, I want you to work on Mondays and Fridays. You get to say no if that happens, right? So this agency and this empowerment, like, figure out what you want your work to look like. Does it look like you only work mornings? Does it look like you have every third week completely off? That's the first place, is to decide what you want. Because by deciding what you want, you're putting a stake in the ground that says, I can have this, because you can. Now, if you're thinking about it in terms of like you're in the middle of just being super burnt out from all of this work, and you're kind of wondering, how do I get away from this in the middle of it? That might not be the time to say, well, I'm making a huge change right this minute. You might be in it. I'm in it this week because I'm going to go away. But what I know is that what I want is something else. So I'm going to plan ahead, and I'm going to say by 3 weeks from now, my Mondays and my Fridays will be free of meetings. So what do I need to do in order to get there? But because I have decided that that's what I want, now I know I can put a plan in place to get there. So that might mean blocking off your calendar for meetings on Mondays and Fridays. You're going to still have some over the next few weeks that you already had on the calendar, but going forward, nobody's going to take it because they can't. Nobody can book time on your calendar without your permission. You have to design around your energy and your commitments. I know I work best on my hard work in the morning because my head is clear, I have more energy. And so I will actually start at like 7 in the morning and I end by 4 o'clock. And I don't feel guilty about it. That's the thing, is we always feel guilty about things too. I don't feel guilty about it because that's what I need, and that's what I'm serving my clients. We have to get back out of this mentality that our worth is tied to the number of hours we're putting in a day. The value of your work is about the impact you're making and the things you're solving. So it's an alignment of value. It is not an alignment of hours. So when you think about it that way, what does it take for you to have a day that is totally aligned with when your energy is? Some people really prefer to have a slow start to the day, and they don't really want to start work until 10 o'clock. If that's you, do that. If I don't stop by like 4 o'clock and go to the gym, I won't do it. You have to know yourself. Everything in business is about self-awareness. It's about knowing yourself and standing for what you want. So when you're making these changes and starting to get into that headspace, if I can have what I want in my work life, start making little changes bit by bit, right? You don't need to do everything all at once, but the key is to know what you want. Because you end up resenting people for being on your calendar. You end up resenting people for being in your space when you don't want them to be. And that's not a great place to be. If you haven't held your boundaries, if you haven't pushed people, push back on people to get you what you need, then there's no other excuse for that. So start small, know what you want, communicate that, build systems around how you want to work, and know what success looks like for you. Success might look really different for you than it looks for me. Success means that I can have a balanced lifestyle with making sure that I get out and do my workouts, and that I can have at least one day of my weekends to be work free. It's up to me to do that. I think the biggest thing though is this permission, is the permission and knowing that nothing's bad is going to happen if you structure your work around what your life looks like. And it's all about communicating those boundaries early and just getting your systems in place so that they can't be compromised. This can work for you no matter what season of your business that you're in, and those things might change over time. I prefer to start work early now. I never used to do that. It used to be that I really wanted to start work at 10 o'clock in the morning. When we worked in the .com days, we worked 14 hours a day. So I appreciate now that I have the choice. So that can change. What you want can change, and that's okay. Let it change. Take one small step, make your own work schedule, figure out what you want, and then what you need to do to put that in place. And that's the most important thing, is to give yourself permission to do that. Little by little, you'll get there. And little by and you can evolve. So remember that people are not, there's no business police that are out there going, you can't work this way. You just have to take it. Okay. You have to take it. You have to own it. You have to decide that that's the way it's going to be. And then you can figure out all sorts of creative ways of doing it. So figure out what you want. Self-awareness is the number one success trait for business owners and entrepreneurs. And then make it happen. Okay. Reach out to us if you have any thoughts, comments, commentary. Then come join us in our community at fullybookedcommunity.com. See you next week.